Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I call to order the third plenary meeting of the second session of the Preparatory Committee for the third United Nations World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction. I now invite the Preparatory Committee to resume its consideration of Agenda Item 5, entitled Considerations on the Post-2015 Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. I will now go over the timeline for negotiations on the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. As delegations are well aware, negotiations on the draft outcome document for the conference have produced on the basis of the zero draft that the co-chairs circulated on 20 October 2014. At the outset of the negotiations, and as agreed by this PrepCom yesterday, we agreed that we would, go through the zero draft paragraph by paragraph. The negotiations commenced yesterday at 3 o'clock. They went on until 2 o'clock this morning. We were able, and then they continued again this morning at 10 o'clock. Went on until 3 p.m. In that time, we were able to finish paragraphs 1 to 23 of the zero draft. All except one paragraphs contain proposals for amendments by delegations, which means that from the zero draft, paragraphs from 24 until the end, i.e. the whole paragraph of 40, are still to be covered in our future discussions. I also would like to remind, delegations on what was agreed, by the this PrepCom yesterday, i.e. that states were allowed to submit in writing their text proposals on those proposals that they made during the negotiations yesterday and today, i.e. paragraphs 1 to 23, for inclusion in the first draft by today, 1800, i.e. 6 p.m. today, Geneva time, that is, of course. In addition, the PrepCom agreed yesterday that states may continue to submit proposals in writing concerning paragraphs 24 to 40 to co-chairs until 20 November by 6 p.m., yet again Geneva time, for incorporation in the compilation document to be used as a reference for the future negotiations as mandated, as I already said, by this PrepCom. This document will also include proposals submitted earlier by member states on paragraphs which have not yet been considered during the negotiations at this second session of the Preparatory Committee. I repeat again that those paragraphs are 24 to 40. The co-chairs intend to circulate the first draft of the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction by 21st November 2014. And that will then include all the proposals made by the member states to paragraphs from paragraph 1 to 23. And we will further then circulate the compilation document by 28 November. And that is possible amendments that member states have submitted already now or will submit by 20 November to co-chairs on paragraphs 24 to 40. As discussed in the negotiation segment earlier today, our intention going forward is to convene open-ended negotiations in 2 rounds in Geneva. The first round of negotiations will be held in December, and the dates are still to be confirmed on the basis of our further discussions with, among the co-chairs and with the bureau members. And the second round will take place in January 2015. And yet again, the dates are to be confirmed at a later date. And this is, of course, with a view to producing a second draft of post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. And delegations, I should remind you that by 21st January, the second draft will be submitted for issuance, and an advance unedited copy will be circulated to states and made available in the official conference website. And on behalf of my co-chair and I would like to inform the delegations that it is our intention to invite Ambassador Wayne McCook of Jamaica to continue his work with informal working group on targets and indicators to support our future work. Therefore, may I take it that the Preparatory Committee agrees to continue to proceed with open-ended negotiations on the draft post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction in December 2014 and in January 2015, as well as to hold further negotiations as required with a view to producing a second draft of the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. I understand there are a few requests for the floor. I was informed that Peru requested for the floor, followed by Algeria. Peru, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora copresidenta. Permítame, en primer lugar, agradecer una vez más a ustedes, copresidentes, por el increíble trabajo que están realizando, el increíble y esforzado trabajo que están realizando y por la tenacidad demostrada en asumir esta importantísima responsabilidad de guiar a los Estados miembros en definir un nuevo marco para tan importante tema. En su tarea tienen ustedes, señores copresidentes, el absoluto respaldo de nuestra delegación en todo momento a lo largo de este proceso. Pedimos la palabra simplemente para precisar dos puntos de nuestra parte antes de tomar una decisión sobre lo presentado por ustedes. En primer lugar, queremos hacer una invocación respecto de las fechas que se han venido considerando para las siguientes sesiones de trabajo. En particular, las fechas inicialmente propuestas por ustedes para la sesión de diciembre que eventualmente tengamos. Ha sido mencionado en anteriores oportunidades y hace un momento atrás también que estas fechas coinciden con la realización de la 20ª reunión de la Conferencia de las Partes del Acuerdo de Cambio Climático en Lima, COP20. Mi delegación, en tanto presidente entrante de la COP20, ve muy difícil que esta se superponga con la realización de una eventual reunión de este importante proceso en el cual estamos embarcados. Entonces, la invocación que hacemos es, para ustedes copresidentes, que tengan en cuenta esta coincidencia, eventual coincidencia en los tiempos de ambas reuniones, para no cruzar las agendas o las fechas de ambas, para no ponernos a los Estados miembros en la situación difícil de escoger entre uno u otro proceso, teniendo en cuenta que muchos de nosotros cubrimos ambos temas y teniendo en cuenta que estamos tratando de alcanzar a lo largo de todo el sistema, no solo de Naciones Unidas, sino a lo largo de toda la discusión del proceso de definición de la agenda post-2015, la tan ansiada coherencia de procesos. Entonces, un primer punto de nuestra parte, en tanto presidencia entrante de la COP20, para atender esta invocación, si fuera posible, y por supuesto con la venia de los Estados miembros. Un segundo punto tiene que ver con el proceso en sí, en el cual estamos trabajando. Mi delegación considera que es importante que culminemos la primera lectura de este documento de la manera como ha sido pedido por los Estados miembros, es decir, siguiendo la actual metodología de negociar o de considerar párrafo por párrafo los contenidos del presente Zero Draft. En esa línea, debemos terminar este ejercicio en diciembre y una vez concluido este ejercicio, mi delegación cree que antes de embarcarnos en un subsiguiente paso, necesitamos definitivamente una guía por parte de ustedes, copresidentes, para ayudarnos a empujar este proceso hacia adelante, para ayudarnos, en otras palabras, a encontrar iniciales consensos en esta discusión. Creemos que esto es tan aún más importante por cuanto el tiempo que tenemos es poco, como ya lo sabemos, y por cuanto aún no estamos claros de cuántas reuniones adicionales vamos a necesitar. Entonces, por guía o por ayuda de parte de ustedes, me refiero a que eventualmente, una vez concluida la primera lectura del texto, tengamos, antes de empezar la segunda lectura, una indicación de parte de ustedes, copresidentes, de cómo podemos leer cada uno de los párrafos ya revisados por las delegaciones, ¿no? De parte de ustedes, una lectura de consenso, de inicial consenso. Quiere decir que en un siguiente documento ustedes podrían presentar a renglón seguido de cada párrafo una propuesta para cada uno de ellos en base a lo que ustedes interpretan podría ser un inicial consenso o un emergente consenso para cada uno de ellos. Repito, esta propuesta es hecha, planteada en la idea de que ustedes, señores copresidentes, tienen un rol y un liderazgo que cumplir en guiar a nosotros, los Estados miembros, en alcanzar un consenso final en Sendai. No podemos esperar hasta la última instancia, con todo el riesgo que eso implica, para llegar a Sendai con un documento completamente abierto y enmendado. Muchas gracias, señores copresidentes.
And I thank you very much, also for your kind words addressed, to the co-chairs. At this, juncture, I would like to inform all the delegations that now the time is really of essence. We will lose the interpretation around 6. So, I will obviously, allow all delegations to take the floor as they wish. But, there is also, a lot of, formal agenda points that this preparatory committee will need to finalize. So, I ask, for your cooperation in this respect, that you would keep your statements extremely brief and concise and to the point, so that we are able to finalize the agenda. Next on my list is Algeria. You have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la coprésidente. Tout d'abord, la délégation algérienne souhaiterait vous réitérer, Madame et Monsieur les coprésidents, ces remerciements tout d'abord pour avoir accepté cette responsabilité, cette lourde responsabilité, et deuxièmement, vous remercier également pour la tâche et le travail accompli. La délégation algérienne partage votre proposition de poursuivre les négociations en décembre et en janvier dans le cadre d'une consultation de négociations ouverte pour d'abord finir la première lecture du document, notamment les paragraphes 23 à 40, et deuxièmement procéder à une deuxième lecture. Mais si dans le cas où nous aurons besoin d'un temps supplémentaire, il serait peut-être indiqué de laisser la porte ouverte pour prévoir d'autres rounds de consultation après celle de janvier. Il me semble que l'inclusion de cette possibilité dans vos conclusions et dans le rapport du comité serait peut-être utile pour nos travaux, la suite de nos travaux. Le deuxième point que la délégation algérienne souhaitait tout à l'heure aborder dans le cadre de nos consultations informelles concerne la méthodologie de travail pour le reste des consultations, des négociations, qui consiste en un aspect fondamental si nous voulons achever et mener à bien nos travaux. Nous avons écouté durant le travail, les consultations informelles de tout à l'heure, des propositions fort intéressantes de certaines délégations, que je ne voudrais pas maintenant, comme nous sommes dans un cadre officiel, je ne voudrais pas citer leur nom. Ces délégations ont suggéré que les coprésidents pourraient peut-être suggérer des paragraphes qui pourraient jouir d'un consensus. Ceci, c'est une piste très intéressante. Cependant, ceci pourrait également poser des interrogations, des questions, des préoccupations de la part de certaines délégations. Notamment, la question de savoir comment les coprésidents vont procéder pour élaborer ces paragraphes qui pourraient jouir d'un consensus. En vertu de quoi? Est-ce que ça sera à la lumière de consultations restreintes ou ils vont faire ça selon leur appréciation? Et pour éviter tout cela, nous pourrons envisager une alternative qui consiste à ce que les coprésidents puissent préparer des propositions de paragraphes sur les paragraphes controversés, mais ces paragraphes devraient figurer entre crochets, ajoutés aux autres propositions dans le cadre de la compilation. Ceci pourrait bien aider les travaux et faire avancer les négociations. C'était cela que la délégation voulait partager avec les États membres et les participants à la deuxième session du PrepCom. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative of Algeria. On your first point, I can confirm that the draft decision paragraph that I just read out included already, the possibility of holding further negotiations as required. On the third point, of course, on the second point, my general comment is that we are at your disposal, and of course, we'll work under your guidance and exactly in a manner as you deem appropriate and necessary. I will move on to Sweden. You have the floor.
Thank you, distinguished co-chairs and colleagues. The way forward is what interests us all. The train has left the station, is on its way to stop at the next station in December, when we have finished the first reading. How to go forward from that text that we will have then after the first reading. Our suggestion is, and we would like to see the co-chairs to produce, on the basis of the text emanating from the first reading, a new draft proposal to be the basis and help for negotiations in January. Of course, producing that new draft proposal in close consultations with interested parties and states on the basis of the suggestions made during the work today and the work being done in December. We think that this would be the most fruitful way of moving forward. We suggest so in line a little bit with what the Peruvian delegate was mentioning, that we are a bit short of time and we would prefer to have an agreed text as soon as possible before Sendai. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished delegate of Sweden of the proposal. I have still a couple of requests for the floor, so I will give floor to Morocco, followed by Canada.
Merci, Monsieur les coprésidents. Le Maroc se félicite aujourd'hui grandement de l'état d'esprit des consultations informelles et des négociations du draft 0. Il faut se féliciter, c'est une victoire du multilatéralisme, mais il faut toujours persévérer sous le leadership de l'ambassadeur de la Thaïlande et de la Finlande, les deux coprésidents, de l'ambassadeur de la Jamaïque qui a fourni un excellent travail pour le groupe informel sur les indicateurs. Madame la coprésidente, Monsieur le coprésident, le Maroc opte pour la deuxième option, C'est-à-dire qu'il faut reporter les négociations jusqu'à la mi-décembre pour laisser l'occasion aux experts qui vont participer à la conférence des changements climatiques de Lima de mener leur mission à Lima et revenir pour pouvoir continuer la négociation vers la mi-décembre. Aujourd'hui, on a maximisé la valeur ajoutée de l'aspect intergouvernemental de ce processus. C'est une victoire. On a vu toutes les positions, aussi bien des pays du Nord que des pays du Sud, des petits États insulaires en développement, des pays les moins avancés. Il faut qu'on soit fidèle. Il faut qu'on soit fidèle à cet aspect intergouvernemental du début jusqu'à la fin. Il faut préserver ce processus et ne pas l'amputer. C'est la raison pour laquelle il faut veiller à sa transparence et aussi à sa flexibilité. Qui dit flexibilité? Le multilatéralisme, c'est l'essence même de la flexibilité et vice-versa. Si on est multilatéraliste, on devra être flexible, autrement, on ne pourra pas être multilatéraliste. Le multilatéralisme, c'est le compromis. Si on n'est pas d'accord pour le compromis, on n'est pas dans le multilatéralisme, on est outside le multilatéralisme. Nous sommes en train de négocier la résilience. C'est une cause très importante pour l'humanité et non pas quelque chose qui est matériel. Donc, il faut prévoir et prendre en considération tous les points de vue, y compris cette question du report des négociations jusqu'à la mi-décembre, car ce qui sera gagnant, c'est la résilience, c'est la réduction des risques de désastre, c'est la déclaration Hyogo 2, c'est le cadre de travail qui sera victorieux. Soyons flexibles et persévérants et mes grandes félicitations à la victoire de ces 2 jours, car on a vraiment eu un échantillon concret du multilatéralisme et l'aspect intergouvernemental proprement dit. C'est ce qui est l'essence et la valeur ajoutée de notre multilatéralisme d'aujourd'hui. Et un grand merci pour tous les parties prenantes qui ont participé à ce processus. Et je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. I still have further requests for the floor. Could I remind again delegations to be as brief as possible, as we don't have much time. I will give floor to Canada.
Thank you very much, Madam Co-Chair, and let me take this opportunity to express my appreciation and that of my delegation to the excellent work done by the 2 co-chairs and the support that's been provided by the Secretariat. Just briefly, we've certainly appreciated the opportunity to have what has been an interesting exchange over the course of the last 2 days. Delegations have certainly been working very hard, but I think as other colleagues have said, time is getting short, and it's essential that we take what has in fact been more than just a 2-day process, but has in fact been a 2-year preparatory process, and start focusing on those areas where we actually need to have priority attention so that we are going to be well positioned for the meeting in March. As such, here we would agree with the proposal that was put forward by Peru. We believe that there is a great deal of sense in asking the co-chairs, with the support of the Secretariat, to boldly propose language in a draft 2 in all areas where there are not substantive disagreements amongst delegations following the conclusion of the proposed open-ended negotiation. This makes imminent sense to us, and we feel that there should be a good degree of flexibility provided to the co-chairs in whom we have full confidence and trust that they will find appropriate modalities for making this happen. We need the co-chairs to carry out this analytical and synthesis role so that states can, as I suggested, focus our attention on where collective guidance remains lacking and where we really need to be giving a clear attention in January. So, in addition to the version of the document that's been called for by some members, the compilation document, as the co-chair has already referred to, we would ask that the co-chairs produce a facilitated draft following the conclusion of the December negotiation meetings so that in January we're able to proceed on the basis of a new draft so that we can deal with areas where there are substantive disagreements. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I will give floor to Indonesia, followed by Jamaica.
Madam Chair, our delegation would like to commend the co-chair for their continued leadership throughout the meeting and thank them for their patience and guidance in this all-inclusive and democratic process. It is principal for our delegation that new set of framework for action for DRR should be a balanced document addressing the issue of DRR from the technical and non-technical aspect. Moreover, it is imperative to make sure that the future framework be a document that can be easily translated to concrete activities on the ground for DRR. It is also important to bear in mind that all activities connected to the current preparations of the Sendai Conference should be based on the adopted UNGA resolution. Therefore, it is important to make sure that all delegations follow the exact modalities, format, as well as timetable set out in the state resolution. Noting the progress that we achieved so far, it is clear that we need additional days to continue our discussion in the open-ended informal meeting. In this regard, we are of the view that the co-chair's proposals, which is to continue our discussion in December, starting from the paragraph that hasn't been discussed today, is the most feasible way forward, so as to guarantee that all paragraphs in the zero draft will be equally treated and considered. At this stage, we should not take for granted the additional days that you propose for the open-ended informal meeting on December and January, and therefore, we should utilize it properly. We might be open for any additional suggestion at the end of our first reading exercise in December, including a possibility for having a new text proposed by the co-chair based on your informal assessment on the first reading exercise. We trust the wisdom of the co-chair in capturing divergent views coming from delegations and are ready to move forward from this point. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Before moving on, I just would like to confirm that I haven't heard any objections in this plenary hall to the proposal that we would fulfill the first reading, i.e. when we meet again in December, we would continue from paragraph 24 and would finalize the document, i.e. to finalize the first reading. All I've heard relates, to after the first reading has been finalized. I give floor to Jamaica.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. And I join others in thanking you and your co-chair for the patient and inclusive steering of our deliberations in this meeting. My delegation has taken note of the discussion on dates, and we look forward to the outcome of further consultations on this. We would want to join in comments on process. We note the observation of some members seeking to find a most efficient and expeditious while transparent and inclusive way forward. Missing from the call for help from you co-chairs is a declaration of responsibility. Each of the brackets in the text is to be assumed to be a sincere submission of a member state. Therefore, each proponent has a duty to be engaged in the search for convergence. We would therefore recommend that delegations that have contributed to the insertion of new elements, where these have met with opposition, should assist you and assist us by beginning immediately after the conclusion of this meeting to consult with each other so that they can contribute to a more effective engagement in December. The rules of procedure suggest that we will be coming to conclusion on the Sendai outcomes by consensus. it is therefore clear that no proposal that stands alone is going to survive. In that context, the faster we get together with each other to build critical mass around fundamental positions, the easier it will be for us to move forward. We remain agnostic as to how this is done and would welcome your guidance and wisdom. But we cannot join in an abdication of our collective responsibility. It is therefore incumbent on all delegations to begin to think of how they will join you as proponents of these proposals to find pathways to convergence. I thank you.
I thank you very much, Ambassador, for your constructive, proposal, which, to my mind, could be easily accommodated, to our way forward. And luckily, of course, we have, the Bureau also to help the co-chairs to take us forward. I will move on, and I give floor to Uruguay, followed by Bangladesh.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Uruguay quisiera apoyar los dos puntos mencionados por el delegado de Perú, es decir, tener en cuenta las fechas de la próxima COP sobre cambio climático a realizarse en Lima, Perú, y solicitar guías a la Secretaría para alcanzar un consenso en base a los comentarios recibidos. Nuestra delegación confía y apoyará en el trabajo de los copresidentes en este sentido. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. On your comments, we will take, of course, note of all comments on dates, though my proposal was that, we would have, the meetings, further meetings in December, and that the dates would be communicated to you as soon as possible, and in particular when we have had interaction also with, the representatives of the regional groups in the Bureau. I move on, and I have next on the list Bangladesh, followed by Pakistan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, my delegation joins the other to thank you and UNISDR Secretariat for the tremendous work done in last 2 days. We believe that substantial progress has been made in the regard of the negotiation of the zero draft. And we are encouraged to see that your proposal for the meeting of the December, which you said that it will start or begin from the document or text which we adopt right now. So we believe that will be the basis of our negotiation in December. Now going forward in January or the subsequent negotiations, we'd like to join with the Ambassador of Jamaica, what he has said. We find tremendous merit in it, that the proponents of the ideas and the suggestions and the brackets are actually need to be engaged so that we can find a common pathway leading up to the Sendai. In this process, we'd also welcome any suggestion by you, co-chairs, because we have trust in you, we have our belief in you. During this negotiating process, and I believe we can come to a fruitful conclusion. I thank you, Madam Chair.
And I thank you. I give floor to Pakistan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try to be very brief. And first of all, thank you, co-chairs, for the tremendous work that you are doing. As was mentioned by Ambassador Thani in his previous remarks, that draft one would be the basis of further negotiation. What we right now have is half draft one. It's not the complete draft one. So what we will have complete draft one when we will be completing until para 40 in December, and after that we will be having this draft one as the basis of further negotiations. As we said in our earlier interventions, that it's very natural and very obvious that to facilitate the negotiations, we understand that there will be additional elements to be to be introduced by the co-chairs, but we understand and we welcome it. But what we see is that whatever has been done here in 2 days should be retained, because it is what the member states have been doing all along. We have been not doing negotiations per se. We will do it after draft one, because what we have been doing right now is incorporating our suggestions, different ideas, and I think we should need to be more patient and move forward in this regard. I thank you, Chair.
And I thank you, Judge. Let me repeat again after the statements I've heard. This preparatory committee already yesterday agreed what is the first draft, and I have not heard, that anyone would want to change the decision of yesterday. So rest assured that, whatever has been included, in the first draft will of course remain there, as you agreed yesterday. So no one is proposing to change that. I give floor next to Australia, followed by Panama. Australia.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I'll be very brief. Let me first of all thank the co-chairs for their excellent stewardship of this complicated meeting. Very briefly, let me just associate myself with the Jamaican ambassador's appeal for a search for convergence. It seems to me that there's a lot of convergence in this discussion. I think all of us strongly support the role of the co-chairs in taking this process forward, and I think all the suggestions that have been made should be taken into account, but the co-chairs, I think, are in the driving seat, and I think, as our Swedish colleague suggested, the train has left the station. We are really facing some time constraints. So I think with the useful elaboration of our colleagues from Peru, Canada and elsewhere, obviously if the co-chairs can find consensus language or language they think will attract consensus, we'd very much support that effort. But I think we'd be very concerned to avoid micromanaging the co-chairs process. I think we trust your judgment and your skills in navigating our way forward. I think it's an inclusive process, as has been seen. There are many proposals on the table, but I think we should regard this debate as counsel for the chairs and co-chairs, but not an attempt to direct you specifically. I think you have that prerogative and discretion, and we'd very much support that role that you'll be playing. So we sense a strong sense of convergence in the room, as our Jamaican colleague has appealed for us to follow. And as I say, I think I sense that we have a good way forward, and we trust that the co-chairs will take us forward judiciously and successfully. Thank you.
And I thank you, Ambassador, for your comments, and I give floor to Panama, followed by Barbados. Panama.
Muchas gracias, señora copresidente. Me uno al agradecimiento por el trabajo llevado adelante por los copresidentes y el apoyo constante recibido por parte de la Secretaría de la UNCDR. Todos somos testigos de la activa participación de los Estados y el nuevo ritmo de trabajo que se ha impuesto en vías de consensuar un marco para la reducción del riesgo de desastre post-2015. La dinámica impuesta debe continuar. Necesitamos seguir adelante y ser pragmáticos. Concordamos que la primera lectura del documento debe continuar hasta el final. Panamá también ve con aprecio que, tomando en cuenta el lenguaje presentado por los Estados, se pueda presentar propuestas de párrafos alternativos y que ese trabajo sea facilitado por los copresidentes. También que se haga en consulta con los Estados. Diciendo esto, apoyamos los dos puntos presentados por el distinguido representante de Perú y la propuesta del distinguido representante de Suecia. Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much. Let me remind you again that, we will have the interpreters about, in half an hour and so, and the preparatory committee needs to finalize its agenda while the interpretation is there. We can't go to any informal session anymore. So I would, plead again that can you be very, very brief, and please reflect whether you can, whether you need to take the floor or could we take the decision. But I move on. I have next on my list, Barbados, followed by Ecuador.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Let me first congratulate the co-chairs for their excellent work. in coordinating these discussions and approaching matters in a comprehensive and inclusive manner. I wish to support the recommendations by Peru and Canada concerning finalizing those areas where there is already convergence. However, there is always a need for oversight in these matters so as to avoid repetition. So I would also like to suggest that in this process, between now and December, that the co-chairs also review the document for coherence so as to avoid repetition. I have observed some elements of repetition already in some of the paragraphs. I know that this is always a challenge when we are proceeding paragraph by paragraph, and I would therefore like to suggest that co-chairs take on this role so as to make the document a coherent one and to avoid repetition as appears in the document from time to time at the moment. So that's my recommendation, but I would like to close by congratulating all those who have contributed to making the document a very thorough one. Thank you very much.
And I thank you, Ambassador, for your comments. Could I remind again, the prep comment that this, agenda item is to take decisions. It's not actually to have, lengthy interaction on the modalities. I would remind, that we did take some decisions already yesterday, which provide us, a clear guidance on the way forward. We can take on board, the guidance presented already here, and the Bureau can finalize, the working modalities if you entrust the Bureau to do that. With those words, I still have, further delegations requesting for the floor. And I would ask, delegations again to reflect whether they need to take the floor before we take, the decision. But I offer the floor as requested. I have Ecuador, followed by Colombia and Mexico. Ecuador.
La propuesta de Perú de cambiar las fechas. En todo el documento y tanto en la PRECON 1 como en la PRECON 2 hemos indicado el deseo de que sean coherentes las agendas de desarrollo sustentable, de cambio climático y de reducción de riesgos. Si no damos apoyo a esta propuesta, estaríamos siendo incoherentes con lo que hemos puesto no solamente ahora, sino antes. Y también quiero aprovechar para indicar que estoy de acuerdo con la propuesta del embajador McCook en el sentido de que debemos buscar convergencia. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. The actual decision paragraph which I read didn't include the dates. Rather than, with that we would come back to the dates as soon as possible. But I take note of your preference. Colombia.
Gracias, Madam Chair. En primer lugar, queremos agradecer por sus esfuerzos para guiar este proceso. Y tenemos dos comentarios en concreto. El primero, apoyamos la propuesta de Perú de permitir a los cochers guiar y facilitar este proceso de tal forma que nos permita avanzar de la manera más eficiente con el fin de tener un documento concreto y conciso. Y segundo, es una solicitud muy especial por parte de nuestro país. Nosotros tenemos unos cierres presupuestales que tenemos que planear nuestras comisiones para diciembre y para enero por parte de nuestras delegaciones en capital. En ese sentido, agradecemos que no más tarde de la próxima semana se nos informe de las fechas exactas en que se llevarán las consultas, tanto de diciembre como de enero. Muchísimas gracias.
Very informally at this stage, the Bureau will meet tomorrow and we will certainly have an interaction on the dates. I give floor to Mexico.
Gracias, señora copresidenta. No quisimos dejar de pasar la oportunidad para agradecer a usted y al copresidente embajador Tani todo el esfuerzo y desempeño que han mostrado en estos trabajos, su paciencia, señores copresidentes, muchísimas gracias. Asimismo, queremos agradecer a la Secretaría de la Estrategia por todo el apoyo que ha brindado a lo largo de estos 2 días. Finalmente, señora copresidenta, nosotros queremos sumarnos a la ola de apoyo que se ha dado a la propuesta de Perú, que fue reforzada con intervenciones de Suecia, de Jamaica, y nos parece que en general todas las intervenciones anteriores coinciden en otorgar a ustedes un voto de confianza y que desde luego México se suma a esto y muchas gracias nuevamente.
Thank you very much. I still have, Spain requesting for the floor. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Muy brevemente, queremos también agradecer la labor de los copresidentes y mostrar todo nuestro respaldo a su labor. Quisiéramos también señalar lo que han dicho ya otros anteriormente, Ecuador hace poco. Creemos muy importante intentar buscar consensos entre las distintas delegaciones y por ello apoyamos lo dicho anteriormente por numerosas delegaciones como Perú, Suecia, Canadá, Barbados o México, en cuanto a que esa labor que estamos llevando a cabo en estos 2 días y en diciembre pueda después resultar en un texto con muchas propuestas reflejadas por ustedes. En cuanto a las fechas de la reunión, no nos parece que sea nuestra labor ahora entrar en ello aquí. Entendemos perfectamente las preocupaciones señaladas por algunas delegaciones y creemos que un diálogo con los representantes regionales de la mesa podrán solventar esta cuestión y asegurar la participación de todas las delegaciones. Muchas gracias.
And now I will have to cut down the discussion because we have to take a decision. I have one more request for the floor, which I accept, and I give floor to Cuba.
Muchas gracias, embajadora y copresidente. Seré muy breve, se lo prometo. A partir de las intervenciones que hemos escuchado, nos animamos a intervenir, en primer lugar, para sumarnos a los agradecimientos por la labor realizada por los copresidentes, por el apoyo recibido de la Secretaría y por la activa participación que las delegaciones han tenido en este segundo comité preparatorio. Pero consideramos importante dejar claro cuál es nuestra opinión sobre las modalidades a partir de las intervenciones escuchadas. Por supuesto, reconocemos el rol que les toca jugar a los copresidentes, que es un rol de facilitación, pero hemos dejado claro durante todo el proceso que este es un proceso intergubernamental donde los estados desde el principio hasta el final tienen que tener un rol preponderante en la negociación, en la toma de decisiones, porque además somos los que tendremos, en compañía de otros actores, pero somos los que tendremos la responsabilidad fundamental en el cumplimiento o implementación de todo lo que se acuerde. El papel de los cofacilitadores, desde nuestro punto de vista, debe ser presentar cuando llegue el momento y después de haber tenido las lecturas correspondientes de los textos, fórmulas o textos de compromisos para aquellos temas donde realmente no podamos encontrar una convergencia entre las delegaciones en el proceso de negociación. No queremos o desearíamos evitar sorpresas de encontrarnos con textos completos alternativos a lo que se viene negociando. Nos parece que se debe mantener, como ha sucedido hasta ahora, la transparencia y la inclusividad y el carácter intergubernamental durante todo el proceso de negociación hasta la propia conferencia de Sendai. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your comments. At this stage, let me try to, again, to propose, the simple decision that this preparatory committee should actually take, on the way forward. Already yesterday, this preparatory committee agreed and decided on what is the first draft and the outcome document of this PrepCom. Secondly, this preparatory committee already accepted the idea of compilation document, which concerns the paragraphs that we have not yet finalized, the first reading of, i.e. paragraphs 24 to 40, which automatically means that we will start from paragraph 24 in December when we meet again, if that is, to be decided by this PrepCom, that there will be further meetings. And thirdly, I would include to my reflection the ideas presented here today, i.e. that those member states that have already presented their proposals would have active interaction and have exchange among themselves as proposed by Ambassador of Jamaica and supported by many delegations. That would of course help take this process forward should you be able to come with compromise proposals later dates. certainly welcomed by the co-chairs. And fourthly, the co-chairs are at your disposal to work on the basis of the first reading and to try to facilitate the process forward in the run-up to our January negotiations, should we have finished the first reading already in December. With those explanations, may I read the decision para, which is relatively simple again, and seek for your approval for this decision of the Preparatory Committee, i.e., may I take that the Preparatory Committee agrees to continue to proceed with open-ended negotiations on the draft post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction in December 2014 and in January 2015, as well as to hold further negotiations as required, with a view to producing a second draft of the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. Can I take that this Preparatory Committee could accept this decision? I see no objection. It is so decided. Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I now invite the committee to begin its consideration of Agenda Item 6, entitled Consideration of the Report of the Preparatory Committee on its second session, for which you have before you document A/conf.224/PC2/L.4. And I would like to give the floor to our distinguished rapporteur, Mr. Andrei Nikiforov of the Russian Federation, to introduce the draft report. Mr. Nikiforov, you have the floor.
Thank you. Co-chairs, excellencies, and distinguished delegates. I have the honor to present to you the draft report of the Preparatory Committee for the Third United Nations World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction on its second session. In this regard, the committee has before it document A/conf.224/PC2L.4. which was circulated desk to desk this morning, November 18. I now have the pleasure to provide a summary of the proceedings that will be reflected in the final report since the circulation of the draft report. Under subsection A, opening, paragraph 2 will be updated to reflect the speakers during the opening and shall read as follows. The second session of the Preparatory Committee for the Third World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction was opened at the United Nations office at Geneva on 17 November 2014 by the co-chair, His Excellency Thongphakdi, Thailand. Opening remarks were made by His Excellency Thongphakdi, Thailand, co-chair of the Preparatory Committee, Her Excellency Päivi Kairama, Finland, co-chair of the Preparatory Committee, Ms. Margareta Wahlstrom, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction, and Mr. Michael Mueller, Acting Director General of the United Nations Office in Geneva. Under subsection C, adoption of the agenda and organization of work of the Preparatory Committee, paragraph 5, reference to corrigendum 1 of document A/conf.224/PC2/2 will be inserted. Under subsection D, organization of the World Conference, paragraph 8A, reference to revision 1 of document A/conf.224/PC2L.1 will be inserted. Paragraph 8b will be completed by inserting the name of the nominated President of the Third World Conference to read as follows. The nomination to the Third World Conference of Her Excellency Eriko Yamatani, Minister of State for Disaster Management of Japan, as its President. Paragraph 9b will be added to reflect the statement by the representative from Japan as host country to read as follows. His Excellency Kenichi Suganama, Ambassador in charge of the Third World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction of Japan, made a statement as a representative of the host country, providing an update on preparations for the Third World Conference. Under subsection E, consideration of the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. A new paragraph will be added as 9th to reflect the presentation on the co-chairs informal working group on targets and indicators, and will read as follows. His Excellency Wayne McCook, a permanent representative of Jamaica to the United Nations Office and other international organizations in Geneva, and Vice Chairman of the Preparatory Committee, reported on the work of co-chairs and formal working group on targets and indicators. Paragraph 11 will be completed to list the number of general statements heard in plenary under Agenda Item 5. Paragraph 11 bis will be inserted to read: all general statements submitted under Agenda Item 5 in writing would be made available on the conference web page, followed by the link to the web page with the uploaded statements. In addition, paragraph 11 ter will be inserted to reflect the statement delivered by Her Excellency Päivi Kairama, Finland, co-chair of the Preparatory Committee, in which she elaborated on the timeline for the negotiations of the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. In addition, paragraph 11 quad will be inserted to reflect the decision by the Preparatory Committee on the modalities for future negotiations on the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. 11 quad will read as follows. At its third meeting, the Preparatory Committee decided to continue to proceed with open-ended negotiations on the first draft of the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction in December 2014 and in January 2015, as well as to hold further negotiations as required with a view to producing a second draft of the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. End of quote. Under subsection F, paragraph 12 refers to adoption of the report of the Intergovernmental Preparatory Committee and will be updated to reflect today's meeting as a third plenary meeting of this session. Under subsection G, other matters, paragraph 14, the document listed will be given the proper document symbol. Under subsection H, conclusion of the session, paragraph 15, the names of the moderators for the first and second technical workshop will be inserted, namely, Her Excellency Maria del Pilar Cornejo de Grunaner, Minister and Head of the National Secretariat for Risk Management of Ecuador and Vice Chairman of the Preparatory Committee for Workshop 1, and Mr. Tony Frisch, Switzerland, Vice Chair of Preparatory Committee for Workshop 2. Paragraph 16 will be updated to reflect the name of the co-chair, Her Excellency Päivi Kairama, Finland. Paragraph 17, the document listed will be given the proper document symbol. Paragraph 18 will be updated to reflect the concluding statements delivered at the end of this afternoon third plenary meeting. With these co-chairs, I recommend the draft report to the Preparatory Committee for its consideration. I thank you.
And I thank you, Mr. Nikirov, for your statement. Are there any comments on the draft report as presented by Mr. Nikiforov? May I take that the Preparatory Committee wishes to adopt the draft report as contained in document A/com.225/PC/L.4 and entrust the rapporteur in collaboration with the Bureau and the Secretariat with its finalization incorporating today's proceedings with a view to its submissions to the Third World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction for its consideration and appropriate action. Can I take it that there is no objection? I see no objection. It is so decided. We have thus concluded our consideration of Agenda Item 6. consideration of the report of the Preparatory Committee on its second session. I should now like to consult the Preparatory Committee on the holding of a third session. By its resolution 68/211 of 20 December 2013, the General Assembly decided that the Preparatory Committee will hold a meeting at Sendai, which is to be decided by the committee as necessary. I understand that the holding of a third session of the Preparatory Committee on 13 March 2015 in Sendai, Japan, is desirable. The main task of the third session of the PrepCom will be to recommend to the conference the adoption of the proposed post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. May I therefore take it that the Preparatory Committee decides to hold its third session on 13 March 2015 in Sendai, Japan. I hear no objection. It is so decided. Thank you very much. We shall now hear from the moderators of the informal technical workshops, which were held yesterday afternoon and today morning. I will first give the floor to Her Excellency Maria del Pilar Correjo, Minister and Head of the National Secretariat for Risk Management of Ecuador, who was the moderator of Technical Workshop 1, entitled Indicators, Monitoring and Review Process for the Post-2015 Framework. Madam Minister, the floor is yours.
I will read in English because it's easier, it's written now there. Summary notes. The Technical Workshop 1 on Indicators, Monitoring and Review Process for the Post-2015 Framework thought to provide an update on the proposed 5+2 global targets and indicators and elicit stakeholder considerations on modalities of implementation. Participants recommended analytical metrics, realistic baselines, disaggregate data by age, sex, people with disabilities, and ethnicity, coherence to meet the Sustainable Development Goals, environment loss accounting, and universal applicability of indicators as essential features of the proposed monitoring system. At the same time, there was a strong agreement to keep the proposed targets simple, while capturing the essential information, particularly mortality and economic loss reduction. Similarly, the targets should be globally measurable as well as locally relevant. However, the changing nature and scale of disasters over time and space was identified as a challenge. Adequate dissemination of information among stakeholders at all levels was identified as a necessary condition to gather the required information, science and evidence-based knowledge. It was also suggested to increase the proportion of public-private investments and more systematically assess risk losses from disasters. It was concluded to consider simple and understandable targets that rely on easy-to-collect objective data, are easy to report on an incentivized positive action. It was also reminded that the agreement on targets will be a result of negotiation process of the member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister, and the moderator of Technical Workshop 1 for your report, and thank you for a very concise report. I now give the floor to His Excellency Tony Frisch, Switzerland, Vice Chair of the Preparatory Committee, who was the moderator of Technical Workshop 2, entitled Towards the Integration of Disaster Risks in Financial Regulation. Mr. Frisch, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Madam Chair. In order to save time, I only read the suggestions to the preparatory process and the co-chairs. But I would firstly like to thank all participants for their constructive spirit. The technical workshop recognized the proactive collaboration between governments, regulators, science, business, and financial institutions is fundamental if the true nature of disaster risk 2 and its impact on sustainable development and economic growth is to be revealed and effectively managed. The technical workshop explored the creation of an informal working modality for advancing collaboration between the different stakeholders, highlighted options for accountability of financial institutions to the post-2015 DRR framework, and emphasized that the reference to the role of financial regulation in the framework is important. Thirdly, it was stated that disaster risk needs to be part of all financial transactions and decisions. Dedicated disaster risk management mechanisms are not enough. To this end, incorporate risk into capital, into every transaction, infrastructure investment, bank loan, equity price on stock exchange, and into the accounts of every country and city. Fourthly, the technical workshop welcomed the proposal by the science community to partner with governments and the financial community to research, test and scale up understanding of how to increase visibility of disaster risk in financial systems. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Frisch, for your report as the moderator of Technical Workshop 2. I will now give the floor to my co-chair, Ambassador Tani, to provide you an overview of the dialogue that the co-chairs had with the major groups to exchange views on the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. Ambassador Tani, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. The Chair's dialogue with major groups was convened in 2 sessions, one yesterday and one this afternoon. The sessions were well attended by major groups and member states. The consultative process has been enriched by this inclusive approach, and we are grateful for the action-oriented proposals put forward. Each group clarified their role in implementation, and we note the distinct shift from talking about vulnerable groups to talking about at-risk groups and the leadership that each group brings. The subject of promoting coherence among the international agendas, including climate agreements, the SDGs, and NDR, drew out a number of concrete suggestions. Major groups active in all the post-2015 processes offered to support governments through explaining the interconnectedness of these agendas, particularly at the local level, where the links between development choices and vulnerability are most evident. We heard tangible voluntary commitments and are encouraged by them, and we encourage them to further post these commitments online. And of course, we will work to promote mechanisms to track progress in these as well. Thank you very much.
And I thank you, Ambassador Tani, for that overview. And also on my own behalf, I would like to thank the major groups for the interaction that the co-chairs have had with them. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the Preparatory Committee will now proceed to the closure of its second session, and I now would like to give the floor to the Mr. Yukimoto Ito, Vice Mayor of Sendai City, to provide us with his statement. You have the floor.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to be offered an opportunity to express my views. Sendai, the host city for the 3rd UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction, is located in the middle of northeast Japan, known as the City of Trees. It is a regional center of business and governmental activity nestled in an environment of outstanding natural beauty. 900 precious lives were lost in our city when the Great East Japan earthquake struck on March 11, 2011, chiefly due to the enormous tsunami that swept over coastal areas. The disaster caused damage worth 1.4 trillion yen. Sendai has now entered the final phase of reconstruction projects aimed at rebuilding the lives of those affected and creating a disaster-resilient city. At the 3rd UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in March next year, We intend to share our experience and the lessons we have learned and to tell the world about our recovery efforts. During the conference, all the public forum events on disaster risk reduction related initiatives and achievements are open to the participants and the public. More than 300 groups and corporations from Japan and abroad have applied to conduct symposium and other sessions as public forum events, and we have received over 200 applications for booth displays. These numbers far exceed those for the last WCDRR in Hyogo. As host city, we will do our utmost to ensure that these events run smoothly. In addition, Great East Japan Earthquake Forum and Thongphakdi Reconstruction and DRR Pavilion will take place as the public forum. During the conference, there will also be more than 20 study tours with free of charge, which provide participants with a first-hand view of recovery efforts and world-leading reconstruction and disaster risk reduction project, and excursions enabling attendees to enjoy the culture, history, and natural attractions of the Thongphakdi region are planned. In addition to providing support to the third UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction as host city, the Sendai City government has made various proposals on utilizing experiences and lessons from the Great East Japan earthquake in the post-2015 framework. Through a variety of initiatives, we aim to continue enhancing the global disaster risk reduction culture and helping to bring disaster risk reduction into the mainstream. And we have high hope for the new framework to be developed in our city, which may become now known as the Sendai Framework. In March next year, Sendai will still be in the midst of its coldest season. But please rest assured that we will give you a very warm welcome. I look forward to seeing you all again soon in Sendai. Thank you.
I thank you, the Vice Mayor of Sendai City, for your statement and for your welcome to your city. Now I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Margareta Wahlstrom, Special Representative of the Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction, to make a statement. Mrs. Wahlstrom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Karaimo. And I think we will speak faster and faster now, won't we? Can hear you speeding up. So let me first thank you and the co-chair, Tani, for the way you have conducted us through these 2 days to help us to get much faster onto the road to Sendai. And of course, all the members of the Bureau of the preparatory process, and as well as all the 130 delegations from member states that have been here over these 2 days, together with 20 IGOs, 21 UN entities, and hundreds of civil society and major group representatives, as you have seen. You have spent many hours and engaged with lots of passion, with the aspiration of all of us reaching a practical instrument to understand and reduce disaster risk today and for the future. And I think in this concluding session, you have also set the path for how we will get there. Let me also thank the staff of the United Nations here in Geneva, the conference services, interpreters, the Department of General Assembly Conference Management, Office of Legal Affairs, all the UNISDR staff, and everybody else who has helped us to get through these couple of days. And finally, I'd just like to say to the Deputy Mayor of Sendai that in 114 days we will arrive to Sendai, and we look forward to meet you there. Thank you for welcoming us there.
I thank the Special Representative of Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction for her closing remarks. Please allow us, the co-chairs, to offer a few thoughts of our own as we conclude the second session of the Intergovernmental Preparatory Committee. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we have covered a lot of ground during this second session. But yes, indeed, there is still more work to be done. We have listened very carefully to the views of Member States on how to move forward efficiently and effectively on the draft post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction, as captured in the timeline that we discussed today. I thank Member States for their support of this timeline and indeed also, for their kind words to the co-chairs. As ever, time is of essence. Fortunately, we have been able to focus and move forward significantly. We will meet again in open-ended negotiations next month here in Geneva, where I trust we will work through the text with the same determination as we have done during these past 2 days. And I would like to offer the floor to my co-chair to also provide his concluding remarks.
Thank you very much. I just wish to thank all who have contributed to the success of the PrepCom. This, of course, includes all the experts who have come from capitals. It also includes observers from IGOs and major groups who came in large numbers to take part in the preparatory process. I believe I speak for all of us in saying that their presence has been very helpful in moving us forward, and we are grateful to you. Let me also echo Margareta's thanks to all the conference officers and the interpreters for working so hard over the past couple of days. On behalf of my co-chair and myself, we look forward to seeing you again next month to produce a text that meets all our expectations. Thank you.
And I thank Ambassador Tani, co-chair, for his statement. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the second session of the Third United Nations World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction is now concluded. The meeting is adjourned.